today you will hear a little about the reasons why Mahir has a particular passion for words. Mahir is a philosopher and a poet from Turkey, and one of my most enjoyable moments during the residency has been working with Mahir in his translation of his poetry from Turkish to English. I wouldn't say that we've been trying to get inside each other's minds. I think probably we messed with each other's minds. But even so, that messing with minds was a collaborative process. So I'll hand you to Mahir.
So, welcome. Thank you. Let me tell you about myself just a bit. Academically, I'm a psychologist, sociologist, philosopher. People call me poet. I don't like adjectives, I don't like titles at all. I'll tell you in a bit why. I wrote some poetry you can find on the tables. And because I usually don't like stage poetry, word from I learned from Ferhat, because someone's just reading a poem, I usually get bored or I don't catch a phrase, and sometimes I want to stop and think about or look at the previous line. So that's why I printed it, and well, you can read it on your own pace. And in half an hour, you'll have a couple of minutes to read it. So yeah, today I have to do something, so I'll start with that one. There's too much pressure. I have to read in Turkish, so I'll start with that one. Yeah. And also the numbers don't mean anything. Just that I mean, we're talking about the same ones, but that's number 11. I'll just read the first page, and then, well, thanks so much, Dominic, again for the translations and writing process. And I'll ask Dominic to read the whole poem, and then we'll get that out of the way. Önce yapayalnız kaldım. Biraz üşüdüm, biraz ağladım. Kötü alışkanlıklar çabuk nüksediyor. Yine bir sigara yaktım. Uzun bir müddet sağa sola, boşluğa, uzağa baktım. Kalkasım geldi, neredeyse kalkacaktım. Kalkamadım. Önce yapayalnız, panik oldum, birilerini arayacaktım. Aradım, konuştuk, iyi geldi, kapattık. Pek bir şey değişmemiş, yine yalnız kaldım. Uykum geldi, biraz kestirdim, karnım acıktı, bir şeyler atıştırdım. Zaman duran bir şey. Derin derin nefes aldım. Önce dayanamadım, kendimi sokağa attım. Gezdim, dolaştım, şunla bununla oyalandım. Daha da yalnızlaştım. Geçmişimi, dostlarımı, aşklarımı, uğraşlarımı hatırladım. Suçluluktan eser kalmamıştı. Şaşırdım. Durdum. Şaşırmadım. Yapmayı isteyecek hiçbir şey bulamadım. Seneler geçmiş. Beden eskimiş. Kendimle kala kaldım. Yapayalnız bir sürü şey düşündüm. Çoğunu da yazmadım. Yalnızlık lütufmuş. Yavaş anladım. Önce yapayalnız kaldım. Bir gülüş, bir bakış, bir heyecan, bir sükunet hatırladım. Hırslanmışım, savrulmuşum, kandırmışım, ağlatmışım, yeniden tasarladım.
Before, I stood all alone. I was cold and cried a bit. Habits of old surfaced again a joint I lit. For a long time, I looked around, to the void and to the far. I intended to. I almost got up. Before, all alone, I panicked and was going to call someone, and I did. We talked, felt good, we hung up. Not too many changes, though. Again, I stood alone. Got sleepy, took a nap, got hungry, took a snack. Time is a standing thing. I took a deep breath. Before, I couldn't bear it. I threw myself to the street. I wandered around, idled around, became even more alone. My past, my friends, my loves, I remembered them all. There were no signs of guilt, no more. I was shocked. I stood. I wasn't anymore. I couldn't find anything to want to do. Years have passed, body got old. I'm still on my own. All alone, thought a lot. Most of them I didn't write. Solitude is a gift. Slowly I got. Before I stood all alone, a laugh, a look, an excitement, I remembered a quiet. I got ambitious, got dispersed, I got deceived and hurt. Now anew I redesign. All alone I stood. I shrunk and dwindled away, I almost disappeared. I forgot the clock. I thought I was late. I missed too much, but I wasn't sure whom I did. I knew when it got silent what I was looking for. I wouldn't in any way find it. Before I stood all alone, I'd suppose no one but me was alone, but I was wrong. All, most. In vain we tried to escape. State, nationhood, religion, just crutches for the weak. I stumbled and fall. Family, God, loves, no wonder why. I'm at senselessness and potential. Before I stood, I was bland. I was a lie. Idioms memorized, habits borrowed, pure me in any way I wouldn't. All alone, I heard so many voices in my head. Was this my life? I took my last breath. Before I stood all alone, candle flickered, melted. I didn't like one more. Dark, cold, uncanny, wordless. I stood. Exhausted by the crowd with ambiguous, timeless questions, life has gone by. I patched myself, closed my eyes and cocked my ear. Either the world got speedier, or I am slow. Before, I've chased lines crudely. I cannot tell, no matter how hard I try. I was bewildered. There was nothing left to do. I wrote. Everything's a mess. I got used, human, deficient, broken, imprisoned. I made peace. Before, I stood all alone. Then, I stood all alone. Now, I saluted the sun saluted me. We smiled now, fully, fillingly. I was scared, very scared. But how hard is it, that much beauty? I wanted to suffer and overcome myself. In freezing water, immersed myself. All alone, I wrote things that looked like poems. Maybe 1,000. I just liked one of them. Pure perfection, non-stop attention is not human. Maybe his direction, I settled. Before, I stood all alone. Got hungry, had no roof. Looked for a pen and paper, though. I was going to write a sentence. but I drew a picture apparently. I couldn't hear the reason why, because all around was very noisy. Before, all alone. I wash my hands. Obviously, they'll remain dirty. So be it. I wash them again. I swam to the farthest. I dived to the deeps. Without even thinking, I'll have the strength to turn back. And I couldn't anyway. I sank. All alone, I shouted out, laid on the ground. All alone, I thought, who was I? What was I doing? I had overdressed, stripped a bit. Before, I stood all alone. I was shameless and shy. That whom I call I was excessive, wild, tender, fragile. I bandaged my wounds. And you? What are you doing here? In my solitude, in my confession, in my shame, in that game I play by myself. I don't know you. But now, it feels like you are here too. And to you, maybe like I am there too.
Well, thank you. Welcome again to my solitude and game I play by myself. So, while I was a teenager and in my 20s, I wrote a lot. And then I thought, why not make a book out of it, which is still not published, but maybe in Turkey that's something I should be proud of. That's not published. Yeah, and then last, well, I don't know, 20 years, but mostly last 5 years, maybe, or 10, I'm really a bit into philosophy. And um, before we came here, Dominic asked us to write a sentence, like make a title and a small description of a discussion. So I wrote philosophy and poetry. Are these exempt from each other? Thoughts and feelings, can we separate them, etc.? So I just want to talk about those a bit. But before, I would like to ask you to, if you like, get pen and post-its, but if not, that's okay too. Would you please think what comes to your mind when you think of philosophy and poetry? You know, well, what words do you associate with philosophy or poetry? So yes, any volunteer? What comes to your mind when I say philosophy? You hear the word philosophy. Knowledge. Real. What? What is real? So maybe reality. Okay. What else? Articulation of the mind. And when you say articulation, like revealing something like that, or just putting into words, putting the mind into words. Okay, mind to words and language. Yeah.
A question is poetry not philosophical?
Yeah, that's the title.
Yeah. So
Okay.
poetry is philosophy. Philosophy is poetry.
It's poetry, not philosophy.
There are three words that are written in the separation line, so in the middle between the two. They are research, infinite, and questions.
Research and infinite and questions.
Beyond.
Beyond. How about poetry? Well, when I say poetry, which words come to your mind? So that? Yeah. Can we say homesick? No, it's a bad translation. Solitude, missing, longing. Eat right, yeah, that's right. Okay. What else? Deep.
Fun.
Fun.
Images.
Images.
Beyond.
Beyond.
Confusing.
Confusing.
Sound.
Sound. So, okay, I'll tell the finale of the joke right up front. Well, my argument is that, instead of writing here philosophy and here poetry, you could just say here poetry and here philosophy. I mean, these questions come to my mind. I mean, I was expecting feelings there, but we have reality, and isn't poems real? Doesn't have knowledge, and I'll talk a lot about knowledge. And I bet there are some articulation of the mind in poetry too, wouldn't you say? And also language is about poetry, I would say, kind of putting mind to words. Philosophy is confusing. Well, we have beyond in each category, so it's easy. Well, in my poetry, I use lots of questions, and I'd say poetry is infinite. And I don't know. Oh yeah, poetry asks about what is real, maybe. And I find philosophy fun. I don't know if I'm the only one, but and philosophy is deep too. Wouldn't you say? Yeah. So yeah, that was my starting point. It's like, and I wrote in that description that's why I feel like I have to talk about that philosophy and poetry. Can we think exempt from our feelings, etc.? Isn't it usually, let's say, that glass is for sale, okay, and it's 100 euros, like it's a lot, but I like it. I would rationalize, well, if I like it, and also it's white, and also I had this red tiny thing. Oh, isn't it nice? But if I don't like it, even if it's 10 euros, or just €1, I'm just like, yeah, but I could spend that money for a beer. I have so many glasses at my house, etc. I usually think that thinking. Well, I borrowed that thought from Nietzsche. Rationality, logic is just a toy invented by the feelings and for the feelings. We want something, and we say, yeah, it's very logical for me to get it. And if I don't like something, I can rationalize, all day, that it's something not likely to. So when I was listening to you yesterday, I was like, really, yeah, that lays the ground for me, because you were talking about, and also you too, thanks, care for others is really related to care for self, right? Yeah. And you were saying, giving a message to the society and making the world better for the next generations. It's like caring for others, healing others, maybe. I'm really into ancient Greek philosophy because it really lays the ground how we think, kind of, for you. And there's this researcher who kind of researched each and every book, each and every written thing in ancient Greek, and he says, well, whenever there is like care for others, he says the answer is, well, you should also care for yourself. I mean, without caring for yourself, you cannot care for the others, etc. And so the come back to knowledge now. The temple, the mainstream temple, I don't know how to say that, the Delphi temple, it's written Gnotisopon, know yourself, in the entrance, okay? Yeah. And the guy asks, why does it say know yourself? And also he researches through all the books and all the written things, etc., and all the stories that are told that we still have. It says know yourself, but the real advice is not to know yourself. It's care for yourself. But in order to care for yourself, he says, you have to know what that self is. I mean, whenever somebody says, well, care yourself, the other asks, like, what is that self you're talking about? So I just want to talk a bit about the self and a bit about, what is that self and what is that knowing? I mean, I really want to ask, is knowing for real? Kind of. So self, we call ourselves usually I, and that I has deeds, and that I has feelings, and that I has, wills and etc. So that's a way to put this, but I think that's a trick our language does to ourselves. I mean, there are feelings, there are deeds, and we say there's an I that feels it. There's an I that does it. But when I feel something, I bet that happens to you too. I'm all about that feeling, nothing more, nothing less. And that I would say, is an abstraction and also kind of a shortcut to name all those deeds and feelings, and we tell them I, as if it doesn't change, okay? Because I stays I, right? But 10 years ago I was calling myself I. 10 years from now I will call myself I still, as if it doesn't change, but it's bullshit. I mean, it has new deeds, it has new feelings. So this is about that self, which doesn't change. So how can we know if it doesn't, if it changes, etc.? Yeah, I'm not really organized, but still. Would you say X is equal to X?
Makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense, doesn't it? So, would you please take a pen and a post-it and draw a circle? Equals X. Would you say a circle equals a circle? No. Any of the circles the same. Any of them. Yeah, but of course we do know that circle is one thing and we all have the same image or same whatever that is. It's only that we can't. Well, I'm not sure. Circle equals circle. Well, none of them does. In the real world, in the natural world. So there's this philosopher, and he's big, not image, but metaphor of line about knowledge. He's Plato, and he makes a line. It's a hierarchical one. Up there, he puts, knowledge, and here there it's rational, and our feelings, and I don't know, our beliefs. He says they don't give us knowledge, in this world, natural world. He says they don't give us knowledge, because our feelings can deceive us, or our beliefs can deceive us. But he says the knowledge is pure. It's purely rational, and there's a line in between, and that's the world of being, and that's the world of becoming. There's change in here, and that doesn't change. There's a definition there, for the words. Yeah, and it's exempt from the knower, independent from the knower, because I mean, whoever you are, a circle is a circle, right? Should be, kinda. So it should be independent from the knower. So none of us gets there. I also have the example of glass. A glass is a glass, right? Would you say? Well, I brought a couple glasses there. We call them each glass. Um, so Plato would say that a philosopher king would rule the world and the city, and the poets should be kicked out of the city, because they're liars. Because they're just talking about beliefs, feelings, and some change, but real knowledge. I mean, if you want to know what's good up there's good. Good equals good, right? Good. I mean, if X is equal X, good is good. There has to be one good that doesn't change, that doesn't become something else from some other point of view in another context. Well, the philosopher knows what that good is. It can define, and that definition doesn't change, etc. Yeah, and then, well, just like that, okay, I guess I laid the ground. I'm studying epistemology. That word has come up a few times. Episteme means knowledge in ancient Greek. It's the knowledge that doesn't change. And I say there's a new epistemology right now, starting from 20th century, and it's called critical epistemology, radical epistemology, feminist epistemology, naturalized epistemology, because it kind of makes reference to an unnatural world, that from which we've got to get out our knowledge. So I can still go on. I mean, when I was thinking of the speech, I thought about X. Okay, glass. Yeah, they're all glasses. But how about justice? Because these concepts don't change. How about love? I mean, in a poem, in lots of poems, we see love or happiness, but is that the same though? So does it mean they're wrong? I mean, I say love, you understand something, you understand some other thing. Well, you didn't understand it correctly, because the exact non-changing definition wasn't that. So, yeah, about that X is equal X. I would like to talk about like sense and reference, a word and its meaning. Glass is like 5 letters, but its meaning differs. Also, love for us, kind of. So when we, as I mean, humanity, we understood that. Well, that's not the case. I mean, if that's the case, we can never draw a circle. We can never define love, or just have a concept of justice that cannot change. Then we start to think, well, feelings and beliefs and experiences, like personal experiences, can give also some knowledge. Maybe they're not exactly the same. I mean, our circles, but they look alike. They have some common points, kind of. Also, well, for the meaning, we can transform meaning, even though it's not 100% purely rationally, absolutely the same. But we can exchange ideas. We can have some common values or common meanings, etc. So then, well, poetry can give knowledge too. I mean, if our experiences is a source of knowledge, and poetry can be real too, kind of, because no, that's not real, because it's not, we cannot hold it in our hands, kind of. perfect definitions of that. Well, yes, we cannot hold law, define law. I bet each of us define law different. I usually use the example of rape. If we made a group of men and women, women together, men and together, and ask them to define what rape is, I don't know if we come to the same definition. Well, yeah. So, but X is X, right? X equals X. I mean, wouldn't you tell me, no, something's wrong there, if I told you X is not X? Huh? Something's wrong there, right? Well, I'd like to talk about mathematics a bit. Do you know Zeno? Is there anybody who doesn't know Zeno? Zenon's paradoxes? Yeah, all right. So, he says, there's a point A, okay? And there's a point B. So in order for someone to get from A to B, you gotta go the half of the road first, right? I mean, for me to go there, I gotta first get the half of the road. Okay, so I'm here, so that let's make C. So I have a road, and to get that road, I first have to go the half of it, right? Again. So let's make it D. So I was at C, and then half of this road, I'm coming to D, and then half of that one, I'm coming to E. Well, he says, well, we will go to E then, and we'll go to, I don't know, X, Y, Z. But that road never, so he says, well, a person can never reach the point B from the point A. Is it? Well, this is the point A, and I can go to B, right, in real life, in natural life, kind of. Yeah, so the mathematical, the non-changing world doesn't give us all the time the knowledge. So how about that knowing yourself, sort of the very wise thing to say is not, I mean, if I can go from A to B, then I think poets can also share, give meaning, and we can also, from our experiences and from our own stories, we can also share common things and etc. Well, that's basically what I would like to say. So we got like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something. I know we can do some poetry reading, poetry stage reading, poetry page reading, or is there any questions about all this, or maybe some?
Very, very interesting presentation.
I forgot to draw one thing. I would like to draw for you.
Yeah.
What do you see there? What do you see? A duck? Huh?
A rabbit.
A rabbit? Do you see a rabbit? So what is there? Is there a duck? It's a drawing, right? Some of us call duck and yeah. Go.
So what I was thinking when you were speaking about Plato here was that if we go with Plato's wisdom, what he tells us about the philosopher and what he tells us about the poet, you being both a poet and a philosopher, would you not need to keep the poet out of the car in relation to yourself? So I'm thinking now that it's actually mathematics is why you're both a poet and a philosopher. Would that be fair to say that it's the maths that has justified in your own mind to be both?
I didn't quite get what you said.
So Plato tells us that the poet should be kicked out of the city. The reason being his knowledge is not epistemological.
It's not even knowledge.
Yes, not even knowledge. that's pretty tough to hear. But anyway, it appears that the mathematics that you have demonstrated here today, puts a question mark over that.
Yeah,
So, would it be fair to say that Mahir is both a poet and a philosopher because of mathematics? And is the epistemological knowledge then in the mathematics? Are we on the wrong disciplines with poetry and philosophy?
So, this picture I draw from Plato. I mean, it starts with Plato, but it's been going on for 2,000 years. First of all, let me say about 2,000 years, and more than 2,000 years. And basically, it's based on distinction. There's knowledge and there's non-knowledge. It's like philosophy. There's rational and there's irrational. And irrational and rational, or knowledge and not knowledge, it's like, and for him, mathematics is somewhere there, and they're like heads and tails. Today, and also it's like knower, the subject and the object, like kind of, the knower and the me. There's always a distinction, just like he puts on the philosopher and the poet. I would say, of course, I'm a philosopher and a poet at the same time, kind of. And we've been talking about this because I'm obsessed with all these during last week. And I've been giving you some example of science. Science gets a lot from mathematics, right? And I told you my teacher was a philosopher of science, so he gives the example, well, physics. That should be, there are 100% knowledge in physics. Let's say I'll come to mathematics too. And if I drop this, it falls right there, right? In physics tell us that if I take a object and drop it, it will fall to the same point. Well, it's not really true though, kind of. You never know where it's gonna fall. And well, here I will not go in, but we talked about universe. Uni kind of still one verse and multiverses because of the new quantum physics mechanics and all. And we talked about multiverses, and he once demonstrated us, let's say, that 2 times 2, what would you say it is? 4? Nah. And there's that guy, he reckons, and it goes like 3,999 something, and we call that. It's kind of, yeah, I cannot go that deep into mathematics, but even mathematics is not that absolute. What excites me in here is that we're all sources of knowledge. Here, I don't call myself writer, I don't call myself, even though I put my special shirt, which is a gift from my friends. Anyone is a poet. Any phrase is a story in this sense. If there are no okay, there are poems and non-poems. If there are good and bad poems, I don't know. I don't know. That art is too high for me. I usually say limit, like the line, like the fracture. Usually people. That's an essential epistemology. Like there's the essence and the non-essence, but the new ones, it kind of, I can put it as a range. And there's this rationality and there's another rationality. At some points they are common. We can both say something rational. There are mathematicians which are arguing all the time. No.
You've left me with a lot to think about.
Yes. I need some more. Read some poems, yeah. Which one do you think I should read? You read some. Yeah. Have you read? I know some of you guys read. I could just put. Maybe we'll give like a couple minutes and you can look.
Or maybe read the one that is the hardest for you to read.
Oh, Which one is it though? I was thinking, you know, to give some silent time for you. And oh yeah, I was gonna say, Freke said he would translate some of my poems, like three poems to Swedish. So I was willing to ask you, well, help me, which ones I should tell him to to translate. Well, can be, yeah, because this one, because there are lots of deep thoughts in it, or you can say, oh, that one, because there are lots of feelings in it, something like. So can we do that? You just look around for a couple minutes for those poems, and then we'll ask Freke to translate some of them. Demek ki kuyruklu bir masala sarmalamışlar beni büyütürken. Tam ellerime göre yeşil beyaz çizgili bir eldiven de yaptırmışlar. Ama ben ayağıma geçirivermişim şaşkınlıktan. Tozlu rafın üstünden taralı saçlarını bozmadan zıplayan kurbağadan korkmuşum. Yürümüş gelmiş yamacıma, yemiş ayağımdaki eldivenlerin çizgilerini. Üşüyünce ayaklarım ısınsın diye kalkıp benim de yürüdüğümü söylediler bana. Hatırlamıyorum. Sütüme kahve koymakla tehdit edip zorlamış olabilirler istediklerini anlatmaya. Ben de o vakit anlatmışımdır. Büyüklerim bilirler çünkü pek cesur sayılmam. Arkadaş olmuşuz kurbağayla. Arkadaş olduğumuz halde adam koydum adını. Büyüyünce adam olsun. O da benim adıma adam koydu. Gel adam, git adam derken geçmiş seneler. Biz bize adam deyip duralım, yine de adamlar bize adam demediler. Yok efendim, ağaçlara tırmanıyormuşuz. Yok efendim, gençlere şeker veriyormuşuz akıl yerine. Bir de kırmızı değilmiş ellerimiz. Sütlerinize kahve koyarsanız elleriniz tabii ki kızarır dedim, güldüler. Onlar gülünce biz de güldük. Biz gülünce onlar kızdılar. Onlar kızınca biz üzüldük. Çok üzüldük, fazla üzülmüşüz. Adamın saçları dökülmüş üzüntüden. Kel bir kurbağa bana adam deyince şaşırıvermişim. Çok küçükmüşüm daha, şaşırsam da şaşırmak neye denir bilmezmişim. Cahillikten hastalanıp yataklara düşmüşüm, ellerim ayaklarım tutmaz olmuş. O vakit bir masala sarmalamışlar beni üşümeyeyim diye. Ellerime özel yeşil beyaz çizgili bir eldiven de yaptırmışlar. Ama ben ayağıma geçirivermişim şaşkınlıktan.
I don't want to read the first part. I would love to get over myself and write playful funeral marches. I don't know much about music. I don't go to funerals. But just like all my friends, I know how to play. Is it enough? I would love to sing happy requiems. My voice isn't any good. But does that make a difference?
I'd like to say thank you, thank you so much again to Mahir for messing with our minds. He did so much to turn over, and it was really wonderful keeping the bar there for all of these amazing events where people deliver something about their passion for words.